All right, so good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome aboard to uh, our two Zoom meetings. Today is the first of two parts. It's going to be a pretty packed 4 hours between today and tomorrow, okay? And please note that by all means, this is not the end, okay? It really is the beginning of your journey into writing and crafting dissertation proposals. Perhaps one of the most difficult things a person will do, person meaning any scholar will do, is to write a coherent, well-constructed dissertation proposal or a research proposal. You can call it whatever. It's a research proposal, dissertation proposal. If you're in a PhD program, you're talking about it as a dissertation proposal. If you're in a if you're applying to a PhD program, you will often refer to it as a research proposal. They ask you to do some sort of a research proposal. What is it that you want to research? What is it that you want to talk about? How are you going to get there? Okay. And what means are you going to use? What strategies are you going to use? And what is define your position statement, define your problem statement. So a lot of that we'll cover in the successive slides. But I also wanted you all to know that, in addition to these sessions, I'm available to work with you individually if you so choose to work with me after the sessions. If you have a specific problem, a specific situation that you're not able to handle, you don't know if your proposal looks really good before you submit it, because oftentimes you don't get a second chance to make the first impression, okay? So if you put in the work, my experience has been, if you really put in the work, okay, the grunt work into something, and satisfied yourself thoroughly that this is polished, the grammar has been checked, the syntax been checked, the formatting is okay, everything is fine, good to go. Even then it's going to come back for something, but it's very likely to be accepted with some terms. Okay, change this, change that. But you don't want it to come back blood-stained with ink, the red ink, and say, unacceptable. Go back and redo it again. Or you'll have to consider being in this program because you really are not up to the mark for the program. And it can be very depressing if you know what I mean, to get into a situation where you think you're doing really well. And I'll tell you, and one of the misconceptions, and look, I'm of Indian origin also. I've studied like you in India through my high school, college years. When I first came to the US, I used to think that, oh, I write reasonably good English, I'd speak reasonably well. I'll be able to write a stellar proposal. And guess what? I had a rude awakening that scholarly writing is different from writing to your girlfriend, okay? Scholarly writing is different from just writing a school essay, right? Scholarly writing is different from just publishing a little article in one of your school journals. Even there, you're expected to write well, but it's not the same. Scholarly writing is a whole different. So this is a scholarly piece. What we're going to be talking about is all scholarly, scholarly, scholarly. It's very meticulously done. It's well designed. It will either make it or it will break it. So you better be making it, especially after my sessions. Okay. So with that, let me go to the next slide. Okay. So let's look at part one. Now I'm going to have to split this into two parts. We'll do part one today, and we're going to do part two tomorrow. Now, what is part one? Part one today, in the new 2 hours that we're going to be together, I'm going to be covering some basics. What is a research proposal? Components of a research proposal, and the goals of a research proposal. Okay. All right. So again, what is a research proposal, components of a research proposal, and goals of research? These are the three major components that first you have to address in your mind. If you don't know these three and you're moving forward, you're going to come 2 steps backwards, because you're not even clear about what it is that you're doing. A lot of students just get into by research proposal, write a research proposal, do this, do that, read this book, read this article, and nobody is investing the time with you individually on how do you go about crafting a good research proposal. What does it really entail? Look, all of this stuff, if I give you articles and books and whatever to read, hey, you can read it all. You say, you don't have to attend a Zoom conference with me. You're attending a Zoom conference because you want somebody who's been there, done that, and who can help you unpack this, correct? Right? So, right, who just joined us here? Is it Kanika? Somebody just joined us here. Let me just check. Okay. Anyway, I just wanted to make sure that we have. Okay. So now before I jump into my next slide, I want to open this forum and ask you this question. Number one question, what is a research proposal? So I'd like all of you, because it's a small group, I'd like all of you to take a stab at this because it's very, very important to understand what is a research proposal. You are attending something, you need to know what it is that you're attending. Correct? Right? So who wants to go first?
Yeah, can I go ahead?
So somebody had raised the hand. Who's this?
Yeah, Anil, it's me, Mahmood. Can I go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead, Mahmood, please.
Yeah, so it's a kind of formal writing about what you are going to research. It includes what kind of method you are going to use in it,
right?
And like that. I don't know much about this, so just what I have. Yes, yeah.
You're doing fine. You're doing fine.
Yeah.
Go ahead. And that's very good. I catch the word. Please catch the word formal. Okay.
Yes.
It's a formal document. It is not informal. It's a very formal document. Okay. Yeah. So you raised your hand. Go ahead.
For me, a research proposal is like putting up my idea in which
Who is this?
Iman.
Oh, Iman. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. I couldn't.
No problem.
You couldn't immediately figure out. Yeah.
No
okay.
Problem.
So Iman, so what is a research proposal?
For me, it's like an idea or a field that I'm interested in to do research.
Correct.
And how I put it in ways for others to understand clearly what my set goals are.
Okay.
So it's like drafting something in a way that it seems interesting, yet it has an implication in the field market. I think.
Very nice. Very nice. Again, catch the next word. First word was formal. Mahmood said it's a formal document, right? Two, Iman suggests that it has to be an interesting document. Look, whatever piece of writing you are doing, whether you're doing quantitative writing, you're doing qualitative writing, you're doing any kind of writing, if your work is not interesting, what are the chances that somebody will want to read your proposal? Am I right or wrong? Correct?
Yeah.
So very good. So first word was formal. I'm going to put these little notes here because these are very important aspects that are coming right from you. I've not even shared what I have to share with you, and they're already coming. The answers are coming from you. So it's a formal document. Number two, it has to be an interesting document. Now, what does interesting mean? Does an interesting mean you have a lot of emoticons there, smiley faces? Okay, love.
Needs to have a perspective.
No, I think.
Aji, Iman.
I think I read your paper for the junior researchers you wrote on qualitative research.
Yeah.
And you described it in so many ways, the same thing that we have been reading in books that I thoroughly enjoyed while going through it. It's how you use the words and how you relate it to something completely different, yet it has the complete meaning in it. So
right. And those of you that have gotten to know me a little bit through my interactions with them individually and through social media will know that I'm a diehard romantic. Okay. And I don't hide that fact. Okay. And because I'm a phenomenologist and I deal always with emotions, thoughts, feelings, perceptions of people, I've kind of gotten used to talking about the heart, talking about the emotions, talking about the feelings. Because if you're not able to get to the feelings, emotions, and thoughts of people, the most boring proposals can become very interesting to read if you have that flair for connecting with people through your writing. And by the same token, the most well-done pieces can be so boring, right? If there is no element of surprise there, if there is no element of intrigue there, curiosity there. After all, why are we doing research? Are we crazy to all spend 4 or 5 years of our life, plus all the enormous amount of money that we're going to be spent doing research? We are doing it for a purpose, but we are also doing it to have fun. If the fun gets lost out of that, forget about it. You're going to be so drained by the time you're done with 1 year of PhD that you're going to say, no more of this. All right. One of the statistics, glaring statistics is, and not to demotivate you guys, but no more than 50% of people that enter a PhD program actually make it through the PhD program, i.e. make it through meaning graduate. And one of the biggest reasons why people fail, coursework will be fine, sab badhiya chalta hai. Oh, I do this course in statistics and this and that, and all the, because before you get to the dissertation phase, you have to do a lot of courses, correct? Core courses, foundational course. I know Anchal is shaking her head. She knows what I'm talking about, right, Anchal? That there are a lot of courses you have to do before you can get to the dissertation phase. Or they can't just say, okay, bhi courses baad mein kar lenge. First you get your dissertation done. It doesn't work that way. There's putting the cart before the horse. So the important thing is to understand the value of a research proposal. Who else who has not spoken? I know Rashmi is getting so eager to she's just bursting at the seams to tell us all about what is a research proposal. Come on, Rashmi, go ahead.
I think she needs to unmute herself.
Yeah, go ahead. You'll have to unmute yourself, Rashmi.
So I've been speaking to myself. This generally happens with me.
You talk to yourself all the time. That's what I'm saying. Where is Rashmi hiding?
This has been like a constant thing with me. I have been talking to myself and the laptop, so I did tend to forget. So as the others have said, it has to be formal, it has to be interesting, and
yes,
the intriguing element that has to be there. Apart
correct,
from that, we need to present an objective. What is our objective? So
correct,
that is the basic idea with which we will take forward our research. So our research has to have, the proposal has to have that strong idea in terms of an objective to show and highlight what is the journey is all about.
correct,
and then
correct.
And then the components will come, the method and other
right. Because it is a journey, it's a roadmap. Today you're sitting here, you want to go somewhere else, you need to know how to get there. Okay, the GPS will take you here, there, everywhere. You need to know which street to go, how to get about, where are going to be obstructions, where is going to be traffic blocks. So Anchal, what is a research proposal?
It's a compact form of your overall research, like what are you planning to do, and what are the central themes that you're going to address through your research.
Okay, very good, very good. Central themes, yes, very important. Your research position, your research statement, your research problem, research questions, hypotheses, right? All of that. So that's great. I like that. Shika, what about, what is a research proposal, Shika?
I think it's a like we are presenting to someone what we are trying to do in the next thing, like maybe it's a PhD or postdoc. What is the
Correct.
objective? What's the methodology? What we are trying to achieve? And
Yeah.
so that we have an idea that what we are trying to achieve and through which ways we are trying to achieve that particular objective.
Okay, very well done. Very well done. So objective, it's a presentation. I like that word, presentation. You're presenting, are you not? It's a document, it's a formal document that you're presenting to somebody. Who is that somebody? Your faculty members, committee members, whoever, right?
Yeah.
Or if you're applying for a PhD program, you may do a mini research proposal, they'll ask you, and you're presenting to the admissions committee, correct? And they are going to decide based on that formal presentation, formal document, whether it makes sense to admit you into the program or not. So it's a very important, and what I liked about what Shika just said was, so the objective has to be very clear, well stated, methodology has to be very clear, right? What are we going to do? I mean, you have the methodology, you have the tools, but what are you going to do with the tools, right? Are you just going to look at the methodology? What is going to be a study design? Who are you going to interview? What are you going to ask them? All of these questions will come up, and I don't want to inundate you, but I just want you to be clear that there is such a thing as as this document. So who else has joined? And I'm sure, let's see, Shika has there, Chandresh. Let's catch Chandresh. Chandresh, welcome aboard. And
good evening, sir.
Chandresh is the last minuter. He
That's right.
hounded me at the last minute. He said, I have to get into this program. Okay.
That's right.
And he said,
you.
sir, within 5 minutes, NEFT will be done and all that. And I said, look, you can just commit to me that you're going to be doing it. And he was able to do it. So welcome aboard. So Chandresh.
Coming very quickly.
Yeah, no problem. So Chandresh, tell us a little bit about this. Okay.
Yeah.
What is it that we are talking about? What is a research proposal after all?
So I think one of the aspects about the research proposal, like the others before me did state about it being a formal kind of approach to finding a little more about a deeper interest about an area. It has to be interesting. And it's also important to understand whether there is a certain gap in the academic world about the area that you are trying to go in and do a research about. Because the academic world is already gone very deep into a lot of areas. And as novice researchers, generally we come in knowing our own field. And we believe that we have a very good understanding about the kind of field we are coming in from. But when we start looking at the past research, I think we kind of understand that generally there is a lot of it that is being done around the areas of the study that you are trying to do or the subject or similar areas of subject that you've done. So it's important from an academic research to come out with a good research that you would want to work and dedicate the next 2 to 3 years of your life on it, to find an area which is a clear gap or where you can add to the body of knowledge by either.
Excellent. So as you can see that Chandresh has come very well prepared, even though I did not tell him what to prepare for. He has done his homework, okay? And it doesn't matter, but what he has hit upon are some absolutely amazing things. And one of the things that you're going to hear a lot about is called gaps in literature. You are researching why. Okay, so, all right. So a lot of times people have this misconception that I'm going to get into a PhD program because I'm going to be the next Einstein. It's okay. If you're not the next Einstein, don't worry about it. right? Don't worry about it. You are not out there to find another moon out there, right? Or to find this hidden sun that is hiding so far away. Okay, so if you can be an Einstein, hey, well and good. Nobody's taking that away from you. But most researchers, most PhDs are doing what? They are researching on a topic of interest, a topic that is interesting. Why is it interesting? You would just want to do more of the same? PhD, that would be so boring. The laws of physics, I'm just taking an example. If you want to see gravity, it's okay. We already know if you leave a ball in the air, it's going to fall to the earth because of gravitational forces. But are you just going to do more on gravity? You might, if you're doing something really amazing in that field. But most of us are doing research. Yeah, we are doing research to get a PhD. But getting a PhD is not your only goal. Along the way, what are you going to be doing? It's a journey to becoming a doctor, not earning a doctorate. It's the journey, not the destination, that's more important. And if you're not enjoying the journey, at the end of the journey, if you reach and then you say to yourself, what did I do? I just cut and pasted, somehow got through the program, right? And I have a PhD, which means nothing to me personally. It may mean something to others, but means nothing to me because I did not toil for it. I did not strive. I did not stretch myself to get that. And if you're not stretching yourself to get something, you're not going to value it in life. Think about anything, right? If something comes easy to you, okay, if you're brilliant and everything is coming easy to you, that's great. But most people, if something comes too easy, it's easy come, easy go, right? So, and that's the same with a program such as a doctorate program. So when you're looking for gaps in literature, what is it that Chandresh was just talking about? He was talking about, as you embark on writing this research proposal and you're digging through the literature, you are trying to find areas or gaps where in the primary sources and the secondary sources, and I'll talk about later in the program, that what kind of work has been done? Who are the theorists in that work? What connections have they made with your research phenomena? Right? Am I satisfied with what they're saying? Is it about, oh, I'm going to PhD to everybody? Well, come on, the German philosophers have already said so much to main kya kar sakte? No, that's not the way. You have to be able to challenge. I'm not saying challenge Einstein or challenge whoever, but you have to be able to look at what they are writing and think about it critically and say, all right, so they contributed to this extant literature, as Chandresh was saying, that we are going to be putting so much into this literature, but what is it that they were missing that I can think about? Can I, through my PhD program, add value to that? Add to that literature in a way that other scholars after me that are going to come, they're going to find something meaningful in my research. And we call the generativity. If your thinking is not generative while you're doing a PhD, forget about it. If your thinking goes, okay, I'm going to do it and I'm going to earn my PhD and I'm going to get done and then I'm going to flash the PhD and get 1 lakh more a month, that's not the point of doing a doctorate. Doctorate is a very sacred journey. It is worse than a root canal treatment. Let me tell you, 10 times worse than a root canal. All right. So you better be really prepared for this journey. Anybody else who has not spoken, I think most of you have said something about the other. Let me just see if I'm missing anybody, because this was a very important thing. Yeah, Everett, let's hear what you have to say. Everett?
Well, Yes, Dr. Biel.
I
Hello.
thought you were busy drinking a Bacardi and Coke there. Hey, this
No.
is a Zoom conference happening, right?
No, I'm not drinking any Bacardi. Good morning, everyone. I was on another device, but it wasn't too clear on my phone, so I
This
changed
is
over
coming
to
through very nice. Everett is in Jamaica, by the way. So Everett, what is a
Yes,
research
Dr.
proposal? So tell everybody, now you are a little bit ahead of the game because you already are almost to the verge of completing your MPhil, and then you're hopefully going to be entering a doctoral program soon. So tell everybody, what is this research proposal?
Well, the research proposal, it's a formal document that is used in academia, and one in which one is proposing research work that they want to be done. So it is something you're writing like in the future tense. It's something that you want to achieve. Within it, you will have to have an aim. Why do you want to do this research? What is the purpose of it? Or what is the goal? What do you hope to achieve? So it's usually a document which is not, it's not that long. And it's one that will take in a bit of the background or the introduction to what you want to do. In it as well, you would have to write about your methodology. That is how you're going to go about conducting this study. Whether you're going to use interviews. In there, you will, you know, in a short way, not too detailed, how you'd collect your data, whether the design that you'll be using. And you're going to use participants or subjects. Because subjects is for if you're going to do like an experimental research, and you talk about the participants if you're doing more of a qualitative study.
Qualitative, very, very good, very good. So you heard of subjects and participants, and you have to have an aim, purpose, goal. How are you going to get from point A to point B? All of that stuff that you already have said, she has just encapsulated in a different way. But you're all correct. You all know something about a research proposal. And I'm so glad that at least you have some idea, some notion. Before we dive into something, at least you know some basics about that. Okay. So with that, I think everybody is covered. Like we've heard from everyone. So let me go to the next slide. Okay. All research starts by identifying a meaningful problem or opportunity about which we want to gain better knowledge or find a solution. Okay, I'm running my cursor here, so just so you can see. All research starts out by identifying a meaningful problem. What do we mean by meaningful? Meaningful also knows that it's researchable. Okay, is this what I want to do? Is it researchable? Right? If I want to count how many clouds are there in the sky, is it researchable? Can I go up there in an airplane and count? No, it's probably humanly not possible. So whatever you are doing, is it something that you can research? Something that you can collect data for? Something that you can analyze? So a lot of the work that I'm covering right now is with great deal of gratitude to Dr. Stephen Terrell, and I'll be able to share his work with you after the Zoom conferences. He's done a phenomenal whole ebook on that, which is so well laid out that will make your life 10 times easier. Okay. So thank you again, Dr. Terrell, for this opportunity to share your wonderful work with my students and with my colleagues. So this is by him, okay? And you'll see a lot more by him. Think of a research proposal as a formal roadmap. We talked about formal, right? That outlines what you want to research, i.e. your research problem or your research question. Okay? A question is a narrower form of a problem. A problem is a very generic thing. I want to solve this problem. Let's say you want to solve a problem, demonetization. What demonetization did in India. That's a very macro thing. But within that, what is it that you want to research? How did demarginalization impact rural communities or impact people that did not have the means for banking or whatever, right? So things of that nature. So your research question is a much smaller piece. It's a shorter sentence which specifically says what is it that you're trying to research. So what you want to research, where you are today, it's important to say in your research proposal that this is where you're at in your thinking. Not that I'm sitting in Noida or I'm sitting in Jamaica or I'm sitting in the US. This is not what I mean by where you're at. Where you are at in your process of development. Okay. This will usually come in the introductory session, where you're giving the background and giving the framework, right? You're setting the stage for what's going to happen in the proposal, all right? Where you are at today, where you hope to go, where are you trying to go? By doing this, yes, you want to earn the PhD, but what is your journey going to be like? All right? How you will get there, because it's not only important to know where you're going to go, but how will you get there? By train, by plane, walking, by ship. How will you get there? Means what methodology will you use to research that? Correct? You know where I'm going with this, right? And what challenges you might encounter on the way. Are you just going to get there? So you have this research methodology, research design, everything is laid out. Hey, it's going to be a cakewalk for you. Are you not going to have any challenges? Are you not making any assumptions? You're going to make assumptions, right? Because you don't know, especially if you're doing qualitative research, even with quant, you do not know if you're going to be able to test the hypothesis that you have. Is the hypothesis going to hold up for testing? Or is it going to go flat on its face? And if you're doing qualitative research, it's even more ambiguous, okay? Because of just the nature of research. It's very convoluted. It's very complex. It's very abstract. There is no set boilerplate. There is no set procedures on how to go. Yes, there is a structure. There's a scientific method, but it's very totally out there, disjointed. And you have to bring all these disjointed pieces together into a coherent whole. So what challenges might you be facing is encountering on the way. Most research proposals will have the following components. Now, some will have a little bit more, some will have a little bit less. I've noticed that in India, some universities demand it in a certain template, but most of them will contain at least these. Chapter 1 is the introduction chapter. Everybody knows that, right? I'm not saying something Greek here. We all know that we have to start whatever you start. You have to introduce the reader to what you're going to be doing, correct? The background and significance. So in your introductory section, you have to share with him or her or them what is the background of the study, of your research problem, your research statement. What is the background around it? So you don't just start and say, oh, I'm going to be using action research to research my problem. This is my problem, you action research, and this is what I'm going to be doing, and boom, 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 it's all done and over with. That's not how you have to create a background. You're introducing somebody. When you read a good novel that is interesting and exciting to you, you will notice something about that novel that grabs your attention, right? It's kind of like a movie trailer. It's titillating. It excites you to want to see the movie. It excites the reader to want to read the entire study, correct? Otherwise, why would they want to invest so much time on it, right? So the introductory chapter is an important chapter to really think about what it is that you're going to be doing. Chapter 2, a very, very critical chapter, which is where most PhDs find the hardest time. It's called the literature review. Sounds like a very easy thing, but it's perhaps one of the most difficult things you will do in a journey. Your chapter 1 introduction may be only 10 or 12 pages at best, or 15 pages. And if it's more than 15 pages, you're writing a mini dissertation out of the chapter 1. A lot of people I've seen, I was helping recently some student who I was working with, and I saw her dissertation proposal. She wanted some help with it. And I saw she had written 35 to 40 pages in the introduction session. And I wrote back to her, I said, this is too much. You're going to totally overwhelm the reader. You presented so much material that there's a lot of repetition. You're going over and over again, rehashing the same thing. Folks, remember, scholarly writing is about precise writing. It's about meticulously putting together your ideas and notions in a way that are coherent. That is coherent. Chapter 3 is research design, research methods, and methodology. What design are you going to use? Are you going to use this as a qualitative research? Is it a quantitative research? What are the epistemological considerations of this research? What are the implications of this research? What are the challenges in doing something like this? Is the research method that you're going to be using novel? Is it new? Has it just been around for 20, 30 years only? Or is it something historically out there? Like ethnography has been out there forever. You don't literally have to go out there and explain to the reader what ethnography is. Yes, you will need to define in the beginning. You will need to talk a little bit about ethnography. Who are the major ethnographic authors, or who are the major theorists in ethnography? What are the new things that are coming out there? So you have to present to that. But there are also things like a pilot study, if you've done, correct, that has to be reported. Assumptions have to be reported. How did you recruit? How will you recruit people for data collection? Right? All of those pieces are critical. They're boring, believe me. Informed consent form, my God. If I have nothing to do on Sunday morning, I would just want to read. I'm going to tell my wife, please give me 10 informed consent forms. That's all I want to read. And my life will be made. They are boring pieces, but they are critical pieces to your chapter 3. Okay? Remember that. So designs, methods, and methodology have to be clearly stated. And if you have a novel research methodology, such as I did, interpretative phenomenological analysis, also known as IPA, which has only been around for like 20 to 25 years now at best. And while there are at least 1,500 to 1,600 studies done using IPA, it's not a lot. So I have to make a case for why I want to use IPA, because the person on the other side may not know about IPA. So do I just throw this curveball into their face and say IPA? Oh, assuming that, first of all, never assume that they know what you're talking about. Remember, I'm going to repeat that. Never assume in your research proposal that they know, they meaning the faculty member, know what they're talking about, what you're talking about. Even if they do know, and you know that they don't assume anything. You are there as a scholar to demonstrate to them that you are, in a way, in a very strange way, going to teach them about something. They're willing to learn from you. Remember, you're becoming a scholar. You right now are just a student. The moment you become a scholar, you are inducted in the Academy of Scholars, and now you wear that PhD hat. So from going from student to PhD is a long journey. All right. Then some research proposals will have things like preliminary suppositions, assumptions, implications, all of that doesn't have to be a separate chapter. It can be incorporated somewhere or the other. Some of this can be, for instance, preliminary suppositions can be incorporated in your introductory chapter. Assumptions can be incorporated in chapter 2 in the research design methodology. Implications usually go into chapter 5, which is your final capstone chapter. Remember, chapter 1, 2, and 3 are so critical. That is why they are part of a research proposal, because you can either do it really well in a robust, rigorous way, or you can do it shoddily that you'll be sitting there on the PhD train forever. It's going to keep coming back at you. That's why when I started this presentation, I said it's very, very critical to do a great job at your research proposal. Make it crisp, make it coherent, make it well structured, that follows, okay, there's a linear path. It follows one chapter, moves into the other. The second chapter moves into the third chapter. If there is no connection between these various pieces, then you're going to lose the reader totally. So remember that it's very, very critical that if you do this well, and all of you, or at least some of you already know, the beauty is that your research proposal is almost half of your dissertation already completed. What do I mean by that? Before you start getting too excited, let me just clarify. Disclaimer. What I mean by that is a well done chapter 1, 2, and 3, when presented to your committee, you're almost there with 50% of your work, because with the exception of few changes, few modifications here and there, that is going to be done. It's a done deal. Now you can move on into the data collection phase, the data analysis phase, the interpretation, the sense making, and all of that good stuff. If you do it badly, it will continue to keep coming back, and you will be in that program forever. All right, so just remember that. This is very, very critical. Okay? A well done research proposal will make or break you in the PhD journey. And if you want to remain the PhD and finish up someday and complete the journey, do a proposal really well. Okay, enough said about that. So now don't forget that there's a conclusion. Now, what are you concluding? Wait, you might say, but this is only a proposal. What is the conclusion that I'm talking about? I've not even done the data analysis yet. I've not done the data collection, interpretations yet. So what are the conclusions? You're basically concluding here. It's kind of like a winding down the last piece when you write in a research proposal, that I'm really excited about this. Okay, because given these pieces, and given the back gaps in literature that I'm seeing, it would be an exciting journey for me to embark upon this. So it's a conclusion. Now, a lot of time, not a lot of times, sometimes the student is so excited writing chapter 1, 2, 3 of the proposal that they forget the citations. They forget that there is such a thing as references. So I'm asking, hey, something missing here. No references, no citations, no bibliography at the end. Remember one thing, folks, you're doing scholarly writing. Even these days, for articles in papers, articles in good magazines, they want references at the end so that you're not caught plagiarizing. Everybody know what plagiarism is? I'm sure everybody knows that. It's an academic crime to plagiarize. The penalties can be severe. So do not plagiarize. You can use the words, you can cite authors, but put them in quotes, number one. Use proper APS style for formatting, and at the end of the paper, present that author the title of the work and publisher and whatnot, the date, correct? There's a difference between referencing and doing bibliography. References usually mean that you only add those authors and citations at the end of the paper that you have used in your body of the work. So Job, Bosch and Lomb, or William and Mary, or whatever that you cited, and number of others, you only add those authors at the end in the reference section. Bibliography means it's a more exhaustive, okay, which means even though you have not cited that author, you've read a different author that has contributed to your area of study, right? And therefore you're including that as readings. They become more like readings. A bibliography, take a bibliography as readings, not as references. When you say reference, the moment you say reference, what are you, the word comes up, what are you referencing? You're referencing what you wrote in the introduction section or the literature review section or the research methodology section. All of those authors that you cited must be in the reference section. I'm spending a lot of time on this, guys. You might come, this is a foregone conclusion. Why is Anil spending so much time on this? I already know this. Believe me, you don't. Because if you did, some of you would not be making the same silly mistakes again and again. कि जी हमने bibliography तैयार कर लिया. अरे, I don't want a bibliography. I did the same mistake. I was doing my dissertation. Oh, I was so carried away by my research topic, negative capability. Oh my God, John Keats and his work. I was immersed. In my sleep, I was reciting John Keats' work. I was so involved with him. And this paper and that paper and that paper, I collected. I had like 100 references. And then my research guide asked me, are all of them quoted or all of them cited in your paper, in your dissertation? I said, what do you mean? He said, I just asked you the question. As all of them cited. If those that are not cited, please remove them. I was heartbroken. I was collecting this bibliography for years. I said, now he's going to ask me to not include them? Shame on him. But then I realized that APA wants you to only reference those that have been cited in your work. So that the author can go back, or not the author, the reader can go back and look, oh, so you were citing this author. Who is this author? What a marvelous piece of writing. So then goes to the section, references, looks up the author, says, I must get this book. So you're getting on Flipkart, immediately ordering the book. Or if you're like me, I do it the easy way. I'm cheap. I don't want to pay for books. So I have my own source from which I get PDFs. And I'll tell you about all that. It's very easy. Go to pdfdrive.net. And I'll bet you most of the books that you want are there for free. PDF Drive, DRIVE.net. You will just have to sign up for a free account. And in your own drive, personal drive, anything you click, any book you like, any you preview, click, it goes into your personal drive. And anytime you can go in and read that online. The only thing is it's in the form of an ebook. But who cares? If I don't have to spend money, I'll read it online. Okay. All right, so enough said about that. Let's go to goals of a research proposal. Okay. So some of the goals are some of the things that you guys talked about when I started to talk about what is a research proposal. But let's go over these goals just a bit. To present and justify a need to study a problem and how to conduct a study. We all talk about the need. What is the need? Whose need? Your need? Your faculty members' need? Whose need is this? Anybody? Whose need are we satisfying here? If you said your own, then I'm going to take some marks away from you. Whose need is this?
We're adding to the lacuna of knowledge. So the need is from the research point of view.
Okay, so you are, because the need is, there is a need for this to be addressed in the literature, correct?
I think, Iman here,
Yeah, Iman, go ahead.
I think it's the need of the community or the environment we are residing in. That's where it becomes an applied science. So we are looking into the things that are required in the society to make it or improve it or make it better for everybody to live in. So if like I normally target things like that, to what is required in the society, how we can.
Wonderful. Excellent. So she is even bringing it closer to home. She didn't say my own need. She didn't say the need of the entire literature. She said the need of the community that you're serving, especially folks, when some of you are going to be doing action research. Action research is performed on site in a community, whether it's an NGO, whether it's whatever, business organization or whatever. You're doing research on site. So the need of a community, thank you, Iman, that was amazing. Looks like you've had a strong cup of coffee today to perk you up. Yeah, that was amazing. I didn't even, believe it or not, I was in a fog. I did not even think about that, Iman, so that's awesome. But so, folks, in addition to what, as Chandresh was saying earlier, in addition to addressing the gaps in literature and all, which becomes so far away. Okay, yes, you are addressing, but that's so far away, it's so distant. Because it will only be done once you've finished your PhD, but while you're doing your PhD, you are keeping in mind the needs of your community. So if you're working with battered women, I'm just giving you an example, okay, right? Or you're working with the transgender community. Like I was helping a young lady, very, very bright young lady called Rabia Nasir from Pakistan at your University of Peshawar, I think she is from. And I was helping her do a dissertation on transgender motivation. This is the first time I was delving into the transgender community, and my goodness, it was amazing what I learned about the transgender. I had so many misconceptions and assumptions about them growing up, right, in India, okay? And you know what I'm talking about. And at the time it was a huge stigma, right? But she went into that community, immersed herself in the community to do this research because she was finding more and more of them want to be self-reliant. So a point I'm saying is that she immersed in that community while she was doing the research. So this is what Iman is also meaning from the standpoint of the community, right, Iman? That standpoint of the community that you're serving, correct?
Yes, sir. It's basically when things that are not being touched and they need research. Like, for example, in our community, like what I look into, like, for example, I'm looking into LBP, like lower back pain. Normally in my community, I see young children are even complaining about back pain. So that got me thinking, what's going on? So I was thinking of relating it to, like, that's what my assumption is, but I would like to be testing it near future, that maybe it's the element of stress or conditional learning from the mothers. Maybe the pain itself is not there, but when they see the mother complaining and taking rest, maybe they have learned it some way to get out of things, or, you know, like that was one of the points. Because there was certain research conducted in the 2000 and some patients, the younger population, they had like they went through different screening, like physical and psychological and everything.
Okay.
Nearly, it was a 1200 or 1500 sample. I don't exactly remember the size of the sample. So what happened was that the younger population, the one that was below 18, who was complaining that they had lower back pain, they could not diagnose why they had it, regardless of the test batteries they ran, physical or mental. So they couldn't get it. So what I like after reading it, what I was thinking about it, that there's probability it was a conditional learning. Like they learned it and then they assume it. Sometimes our assumptions are so strong, our beliefs are so strong, we actually think it is there, but that's not there. That's one of the reasons that psychology.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. That's excellent. Thanks for sharing that. So proposals contain extensive literature reviews, and we're going to talk a lot about that. This is going to be heavy on literature review. I know it's going to be boring for a lot of you, but I'm spending most of the time on the critical pieces. I'm spending time on the root canal so that we don't have to do other procedures on your teeth. So get ready for that. So there's proposals contain extensive literature review, not just peripheral literature reviews, not just the little read. You're going to read Emerald, one paper here, one paper there, and you're done. Extensive, deep literature review. Okay. Must provide persuasive evidence that a need exists. You have to, in your proposal, provide a persuasive evidence. And how can you provide a persuasive evidence that a need exists if you have not read the literature extensively? Right, Rashmi?
Yeah.
So if you've read the literature, you're conversant, you're familiar with the literature, are you then going to be able to decide that there's evidence that there is a need that exists? As Chandresh was saying, there's a gap. And I am there to address that gap. You know, nothing is more beautiful, more encouraging, more inspiring to a faculty member than a student who lays it out so beautifully that you almost want to not cry, but actually you get overwhelmed with emotion and you almost come to tears thinking that this student has gone through so much pain. As I'm saying this, I'm getting goosebumps right now, believe it or not. Because I have experienced this thing with my students that they've gone through the pain. And they're elaborating it in such a way, sir, there's a need that exists. This is why I want to do it. Not because nobody has done it before. Okay, that's one way of looking at it. A need exists. Yes, that is true. Nobody has done it before, so there's a need exists. But if nobody has done it before, why is it that nobody has attempted this before? Is it something that you could not research? And then I'm going to say, Monica, if nobody attempted it before because it could not be researched, what makes you think you're going to be able to research? So you get the drift, right? Yes, Nitin.
Yeah. So that means the research question comes simultaneously or parallelly to the need, because because I'm also in the process of writing a proposal for my dissertation.
Yes.
I was trying to find something, and I was having a hard time zeroing in on one of the problems. Then when I started doing literature review, it changed my research problem again. So what I have experienced is that you might start with a research question, or you probably justify that there is a need to study this phenomena because most of people don't know. When you do literature review, you get to know that you might have to change the research problem because, as Chandresh said, the gap is different. So where I'm confused is that research question and the need, that comes simultaneously, or they follow each other, or someone goes
so
ahead.
When you say persuasive need, thank you for that brilliant question, Nitin. When you say that persuasive need exists, what you're really telling the faculty or telling the people who are going to be reading your proposal is that I've gone through the literature, all the major literature written in this, primary, secondary sources, whatever, and I find that there's a gap that exists. Okay, fine. Right? And my research, and looking at that gap, my research question is, I'm just taking an example, because Nitin is a physician, right? Nitin, you're a physician, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. So my question would be, why is it that people suffering, I'm just taking a hypothetical, why is people suffering from cancer do not seek out early treatment? I'm just taking an example.
Yeah.
So cancer has occurred. They have mouth cancer or some other cancer has occurred, and they are bashful about approaching the person because there's a lump, there's a nodule there somewhere. They're afraid, right? They don't know it's cancer yet.
Right.
But the moment they reach the doctor's office, the diagnostics is done, then the doctor gives the bad news that, you have a malignancy, correct?
Yeah.
So if your question is, why is it that people suffering from cancer or early do not come for early diagnosis? They wait too long until the cancer is spread. I'm just taking a very hypothetical. I'm not a technical person, not a medical person, okay? So I don't profess to be one, but I have done a lot of these studies. Read up a lot of these studies. So I know, and my own daughter happens to be a physician. She's an oncologist.
Right.
So cancer comes to my mind. Right. Okay. So your question is, as you engage with the literature and you have this basic question in your mind, research question, which is, by the way, all of you know, research question is critical. It guides the design, which guides the methodology, which guides the data collection, data analysis, interpretation. It all flows from the research question, not the other way around. Okay, I'll fall in love with phenomenology.
Yes.
No, I'm serious.
No, this was pointed out in the last workshop also, that it should not be, it should never be the other way around.
Sir, I'm so excited. I'm falling in love with phenomenology. I said, why? So it's beautiful. What a beautiful methodology. Yeah, because straightforward way mein sab ho jata hai. So maine kaha, what is your research question? Wo kya hota hai? So can I look at the research question later, sir? मैंने कहा research question होना चाहिए. Sir, बाद में देख लेंगे ना. So मैंने कहा, are you trying to backfill the research? You get the drift. They get excited. And she was, and by the way, I adore her. She's a wonderful student. But she was so exuberant. And she felt so much that she says, "Aapne itna acha kaam kiya phenomenology mein." I want to do phenomenology only. I want to do IPA.
That happens.
But why do you want to do IPA? What's your research question? So you get that. And after that, she never brought it up again. She said, "Sir, first I'll find the research question." So research question will guide all of this. And if you do a well-crafted, concise research question, a lot can flow. So to answer Dr. Nitin's question, yes, your research question can change. Of course it can change, and it should change. If you've delved into the literature, you don't want to go down a wrong rabbit hole.
Right.
Because if research is already done in that area, what are you going to be doing in that area?
Right.
You want to do something, we all try to do something innovative, correct? Right? Something that's groundbreaking, something that was added to the way, something that you can write a new original paper about in a journal. So, yes. So does that answer your question somewhat?
Yes.
Nitin?
Yes.
That it can change.
No,
it can change as you go. It's called a mid-course correction.
Right.
And then
I was a little confused about it because
and you know what?
Sacrosanct.
Especially if you're doing a qualitative study, Nitin, and if your research question has changed, you're well within your right to report that in your final paper. I mean, not final paper, final chapter.
Presentation.
Say that my original research question was this. And as I delved into the literature, I realized blah, 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 blah. And here's the reason why. अरे मैं कहता हूँ, वो तो कहेंगे यार ये कहाँ से आ गए? ये तो भाई इनको तो फटाफट PhD दे दो. You get the, I mean, you get the drift because
no, I got your point.
Yes. Nothing is more.
Actually, this is happening with me, and I'm like, I'm kind of overwhelmed because.
And I'm so glad that Nitin, you are approaching this whole thing as a novice. You are such an experienced person in you know, what is MPH? No, public health. Public health. You're so engaged, so experienced in public health, but I love the way your academic curiosity is, that you're approaching it as a novice,
right?
Approaching it as a true learner rather than somebody who has already grown on, right? That I already know what I do need to know. So what am I doing here?
Yes, yes.
And that is the beauty of, that's why we call academic curiosity. The childlike curiosity. When you have enough questions that are popping up in your mind,
right?
This is how you help others also grow around you.
So, Anil, I had a quick question, Siddharth, this side.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, won't our worldview guide our methodology apart from the research question? So, for example, if there is a social and phenomenology broken up and research which is not in physics, the objectivist domain. So I'm inspired to do phenomenology from that way. So is there anything wrong in that, or only the research question should guide the methodology?
So here's, so you were breaking up because of the internet connection, but I got the gist of what it is. So you are saying, so if everybody heard
excuse me, Doc.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Anil.
Yeah.
Can Sid, can you repeat what you said, because I couldn't hear you properly.
I caught the drift. So I'm going to repeat it for Sid. Okay. Here's what Sid was going with. He said, our discussion was around research question, correct? Right. So he said, what are the factors that guide your research question? You guide your methodology. So Sid's question was, if I heard it correctly, okay, would your worldview not guide the choice of methodology? Not the research question. Research question differently. Choice of methodology. For instance, if my worldview is generally very abstract, I live in abstraction. I love abstraction. I don't like quantitative stuff. I'm more into thoughts, feelings, emotions as a thing. Like my emotional center is stronger within me. So if my worldview is, and I don't have the definition of that worldview, but I'm sure there's a definition. If you read Pepper's work, he has different worldviews, right? And I've read that a long time back, so I'm not able to pinpoint what worldview, but it's a thinking, feeling, reflecting, emoting worldview. That most of the time, I think if I approach a problem with my heart, I approach a problem with my feelings, I approach a relationship with my feeling. How am I feeling about this person? What is this person? How is she making me feel? Not how is she making me think. How is she making me feel? Am I feeling good with her? Am I feeling bad with her? Am I feeling rejected? Am I feeling welcome? Am I feeling loved? So I'm just giving you an example. If my worldview goes around there, I would be probably more inclined to do a qualitative research rather than a quantitative, because numbers are not that important to me. Whereas Nitin, you may be going for a more quant approach with qualitative piggybacking on it. So you may be wanting to do a mixed method, right?
Yeah. On the contrary, this is actually, I started with mixed method, but now I guess I will end up doing qualitative only.
So you're my hero now.
Yes. So I mean, I'm getting overwhelmed with the information because every time I interact with people on the field, it changes something.
So Sid, you wanted to add something before we go on really quick?
I'm sorry?
Sid, did you want to add something to it? Does that answer your question?
Yeah. It mostly does, but it gives me a lot of fodder for thinking. So what are the facts that govern a research question? That's something I'm thinking right now.
Yeah. So yes, guys, if Sid had just responded to me and said, "Sir, totally answer your question," I would be very scared. If you don't know, there is room for knowing. If you know, your head is so full of knowing that you'll go with what you know. So thank you, Sid, for remaining open to inquiry. That is what the scholars do. They remain open to inquiry even after they earn their PhD. They still feel, oh my goodness, so I spent 5 years of my life. Oh gosh, I should have done this, would have done that, would have done that. They're constantly looking, searching, thinking. That's what it's all about, correct? Okay. So I'm going to quickly ask Shika because Shika has been very silent. Go ahead. Who was this?
Yeah,
Who's this? Shika. There you go. See, how did I? Yeah, kya brain waves hamare? Before you could ask the question, I said let's call upon Shika. Kyun Rashmi manna padega, right? Go ahead, Shika, please.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, like you just pointed out, after the literature review, we need to show that there is a pressing need to do the study, right?
Yes.
Do we also have to mention it within the thesis or proposal that why this study has not been done yet, and what makes me think that I'll be able to do this?
Wonderful. But so the first part of your question is why that study has not been done. You don't know the answer to that. Why was that study not done? Correct? But
yes,
you do know that so you do know that the study has not been done. I cannot answer the question why that study was not done unless there is research literature on why that study was not done. But simply saying that I know why the study is not done because of this without evidence is wrong. You can say that study is not done. Therefore, I want to approach this and see what I can contribute to this. And your question is this to be reported? If you're doing a qualitative study, there is such a thing as called researcher reflexivity, which means everything that is happening to you as a researcher and how you are impacting the study and how the study is impacting you and what your assumptions were when you started out and whether it went directly to the correct approach or not, and what changes had to be made. These are all reported in your qualitative study. It's the meat of your qualitative study. Okay? Researcher reflexivity. Okay? Your unconscious biases, your conscious biases, everything has to come into your study. And we'll talk about that.
Ask, like, my exact question is that this study has not been done. So do I need to put it somewhere that this is my methodology or something else? That's why I think I should conduct or I need to conduct this study.
Yes. So you are saying that. You and I are talking about the same thing. I'm saying yes. If you see a gap there, and this is why you want to conduct the study, you have to have compelling reasons why you want to compel the study. Not because it looks beautiful, it looks great, it looks intriguing. Yes, I want to do this study, and here's the way I'm going to go about it. Okay. But remember one thing: when you're doing qualitative research, a very mantra I will tell you: remain speculative. Do not have a definitive frame of mind. Remain speculative. That I speculate. Don't say, oh, this is what I'm going to be doing and this is the way it's going to go. There is no room there for certainty yet. Yes, at the end of the study, when you get findings and outcomes or whatever, you can say, even there, if you read my dissertation, even there I say that I'm still tentative about this. You might say, wait, 5 saal jhak mari, right? He's still tentative? Because how do I know? I'm talking about a novel phenomena. 10 people writing that same thing, doing that same research will come up with 10 different findings. So I have to remain speculative, remain in a nimble frame of mind, Shika. Not that I know everything there is to know, right? But yes, you will say, and we can help you craft that piece when you come to that point, or how do you present it in a way that it does not seem as though you know the answers already before asking the questions. You're smiling, so I think you know where I'm going with this, right? You can't provide the answer before asking the question. Right?
Yes.
So ask the question in your dissertation. Ask the question. Hey, ask the question there. And then say, I speculate that if I approach this in such and such and such way, I may be able to come up with it. Not I will be able to. Get rid of the, if you're doing qualitative, get rid of will. I may be able to. Add something to the, remain speculative, remain open to inquiry, remain open to learning. Okay? Iman, go ahead.
Like normally till now, I have been doing quantitative research instead of qualitative research. Yes. I've always found qualitative to be very difficult. I think I don't have the skills to be a qualitative researcher. Because it needs a lot of expertise to interpret what other people are saying.
Arey man, you are working with me now. आप तो कहते हैं skills की बात कर रहे हैं. आपको, we will make you the hero now.
What I'm trying to ask is here that in quantitative research, you have used two words here. I speculate, or I may be able to come up with it, right?
Correct.
So if I'm conducting, let's assume hypothetically, quantitative research, will I able
yes.
to, can I use the same vocabulary for it? Like, for example, I speculate that I will be laying foundation for more research in the area of LBP, like lower back pains, in younger adults or young children, for that matter. Like, since it's in my brain, it's still working in the same direction. So, what do you say? Like, or
okay,
maybe...
so you will say, so you don't say I speculate that I will be contributing. You can always say that my attempt is to contribute to the literature, contribute to the knowledge area. However, I speculate based on my findings, data collection, data analysis, that this may be happening in the community. This may be happening to children. Because you don't know exactly what is happening in their minds. You're speculating, correct?
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
When you say that it may be picked up from mothers and all that, you were saying earlier,
that's my speculation.
It's your speculation. It's not, I won't call it intuition, it's your speculation. It's your insight into that. And all you're doing is contributing to that. You are not going to produce yes, no answers to that. Ye to beauty hai qualitative research. You're only providing thoughts, feelings, emotions, perceptions of people, and allow the readers to make their own formulations.
Okay.
Readers meaning whoever is at the end of the study, who is going to be doing your study. Let them form their own ideas.
Okay.
Does that satisfy you somewhat?
Little bit, but I'll work on it later.
So that's why I said if you're not totally satisfied, we're in a very good place.
Okay.
If you said I'm totally satisfied with the answer, then there's nothing else to do. But you get the reason why I'm saying speculative. You never know. See, when you're dealing with, okay, so I'll give you an example, quick example before we go, because a lot of stuff to be covered. So if I say, let's say somebody is dating someone, correct?
Okay.
And Siddharth says, let's pick on Siddharth for a second, right? Okay, see, Siddharth just woke up. And so Siddharth says, okay, honey, you're looking down. You're looking tired all the time these days, right? Whenever we meet, when we go out for dinner, we are talking, you're always looking exhausted, tired, and all that, right? And she says to Sid, no, Sid, you're making a wrong assumption. I'm not tired at all. And you say, no. I think what might be happening, not that Sid will say this, but I'm giving you an example. What might be happening to you is, are you worried about the finances? Are you worried about whatever, right? What's happening? Are you worried about the relatives? Worried about the mother-in-law? Are there some of your concerns? I'm trying to sort of understand what's going on. Now, if you remain in an inquiry mode with her and emotionally hold her there, she's likely to share with you some of what is going on. But if you come back to her and say, oh, I know what must be happening. You're probably having a clash with my mom. Or you're worried about how are we going to pay the next EMI payment on the house. Or you're, don't worry, I've got it all covered. You have nothing to worry about. Just smile, be happy. That is not a satisfactory answer, because you're providing certitude in a place where there is tentativeness. And if you remain in an inquiry mode and allow her to work through her problem, fully knowing, Sid, that you're there to hold her emotionally, she will likely share with you what is happening without feeling burdened with this thing that, oh, I know exactly what is going on with you. Iman, go ahead.
Okay, so you have actually taught me again a lesson I forgot, how to build rapport building and ask your clients what's your problem, by not just telling them to talk about it, giving them space to talk about it so they're really frank with you.
Exactly. You just said the most beautiful words. Give the person some space to figure it out. You know, somebody, okay, another quick example, and I have to then, because I'm a big talker, so I have to stop and go to the next slide because we have a lot of work to cover. But I'll give you a quick example. So here's what happens. You are in a liaison, in a relationship, developing, right? You're just dating someone or seeing someone or whatever the case may be. And you are used to a momentum that is happening over a month or so. Every day you're contacting each other, you're texting each other, you know, things are going rapidly back and forth, back and forth. And you know, today in the days of immediacy, one text and it's all done, and then the next text. And so time has changed in your head. The meaning of time has changed. The whole concept, the whole construct of time has changed because it's so immediate, everything. Correct. Now, suddenly, she stops communicating with you for whatever reason. And you are the one that had sent the last message. So you are now waiting for her to respond to that message. And there is no response coming. And yet you are thinking all sorts of things. You're projecting into her silence. Oh, she must be mad at me. I must have said something wrong, or something may be happening. And, you know, let me give her the space to figure it out. That's one way of looking at it. The other way is you immediately rush back and say, oh, you're ignoring me. Talking every single day, like 3 times a day, and this and that, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm feeling ignored. I'm feeling rejected. I'm feeling this. Guess what it does to the relationship? It creates that tension in the relationship. So likewise, I take the example, let's extrapolate that to with your interviewing people for your study. If you start making comments that are suggestive, if you start making it seem as though you know what is going on, oh, I know exactly what you're going through. Oh, I know exactly how you feel. Do you really know exactly how the person feels? No. And the person is suddenly breaking down. It has happened to me. It's happened to a lot of you when you're doing interviewing people on something very delicate and, you know, emotional battering or, you know, difficulties in marriage or whatever the case may be, that they suddenly break down in tears. And at that moment, he said, oh, no, don't cry. There's nothing to cry about. This will all be okay. Sab theek ho jayega. Don't worry about it. I know, I've been there. Look, I'm more seasoned. I know exactly what's going on with you. The person will say, you know, let me get out of this interview quickly. This guy doesn't have a clue what's going on with me. And now he's trying to put all those band-aids. Right? Nobody wants that. Nobody likes that. So point I'm trying to make is never assume what is happening in the life of someone. It's a very complex world. It's a very complex, the mental world of someone is a very complex field. And to profess to know what's going on in somebody is like going down the wrong path. So just wanted to throw that in there. So let me go to the next. Okay, now this is a long piece that I'd written on LinkedIn and posted. Some of you, I don't know, saw it or not saw it, but this is a very, very important piece. Keep your introduction last. Now you might be thinking, which introduction? Not introducing yourself to somebody, right? This is introduction, chapter 1. Keep it last. I know Shika's got that puzzled look on her face. Okay, introduction abhi nahi karna. Keep it last. How? So Shika, tell me, why should you keep the introduction last? Can't hear you.
Unmute yourself.
You'll have to go ahead. Why should you keep the introduction last?
No idea.
No. Okay, good. You're a good place. Why? Anybody else? Why should we keep your introduction of the chapter 1 introduction the last? Why should you not do it the first? As the flow goes linearly, we are conditioned to do 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Why should you keep it the last?
The flow is for the reader, not for the writer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why for a writer, probably it's easier to write the introduction last. But for the reader, it will really help them. Yeah.
Yeah, but Sid, why? Why should you write the introduction? The introduction to pehle aata hai. It should be the first. When you read a novel, you don't see.
Okay. Can I say something?
Exactly. It's for the reader.
So that we can have the idea of what we are about to write in the whole thing. So when we are clear, we can write it in a better way.
Clear means what? Anchal.
Yes,
Anchal got a puzzled look on her face. Anchal, boliye.
No, sir, I was just saying that since introduction has a gist of what you want to write, so since you will, the way you will proceed about it, I think in the end you will reach a conclusion of what you want to, the entire research proposal. I think that's why it should be towards the end. I may be wrong.
Okay, so here's the biggest mistake that people make, and that creates writer's block. They are so bogged down with writing the introduction. कि भाई introduction में क्या लिखना है? बाकी तो सब छोड़ो. Forget about literature review, वो बाद में हो जाएगा. Methodology बाद में हो जाएगा. Literature, भाई introduction में क्या लिखना है? What is it that I'm going to say in the introduction piece? Let me ask you a question. Go ahead.
The writers, they exhaust themselves.
Yes. You will exhaust yourself
they
so much.
exhaust themselves in writing just the introduction, that the other portions, they get so neglected and they lack that luster altogether.
Correct. And let me give you a very quick, very simple example. When a movie is being made, correct? A movie, right? A picture is being made. Can they create a trailer of the picture so the entire movie is made?
No. Sir, what
Trailer contains scenes, flashes, situations from the movie itself. So if you have already written most of it, and I'm not saying entirely with all the grammar check and everything else, but the content is already there, you can present an introduction in a meaningful way, capturing some of what has happened in the literature review, capturing some of what has happened in the data collection, or in the research methodology section, section 3, conclusions and all that. You can bring it all forward into the introduction in a meaningful way. Not thinking that, oh, my goodness, if the introduction is not done, I'm going to give this up. I can't do it anymore. दिमाग ही नहीं चल रहा. I can't figure out why I cannot figure out the introduction. Don't beat your head on the introduction piece. Keep it last. Don't worry, it's not going to run away. You know why? Another reason is we avoid pain, because introduction is the interesting, beautiful part. I'm going to open this thing with this, that, and the other, all lovely stuff. And then literature review is the hard one. You don't want to do the literature review.
But sir, I believe that if you actually have done your literature review first, writing introduction becomes a piece of cake comparatively to your
Correct.
Because then you
absolutely
have all the
right
ideas that other people have done and what they have done or what they have achieved. then making
Because
your basis becomes much, much easier, that how and why I'm going about it.
Right, right.
And if we are clear with literature review and methodology, then it's a good marriage for the research.
Absolutely, it's a good marriage because you're connecting all the pieces. Otherwise, your introduction will be disjointed. But I don't know. भाई मेरी novel में लिखना क्या बाद में कि पहले मैं what am I introducing? How can I introduce until I know what I'm going to be talking about later on?
Okay, sir. There's one query I have regarding.
Go ahead.
Because when I'm talking about quantitative here. That when we used to do introduction and used to go to the literature review and then we quoted the literature review, what my teacher, like the previous teacher taught me was that you just give the just an idea or just tell about that what they did, but you can add the same research in your literature review, like as supporting with a complete abstract that this is what they did, these were the tools and this was the year, blah, blah.
Yes, because remember one thing, literature review is
simultaneously that intro.
Correct, because your introduction, thank you Rashmi for sharing that, but your introduction is also a roadmap. You're introducing the reader to something that is going to happen in your proposal, correct?
Yeah.
So you will introduce the person. What do you introduce the person to? Your research phenomena, correct? What are you researching, right? Not why you are researching so much at this point in time. Just relax a little bit. Tell the person you're researching this, and you hope to find some meaningful connections in this research. And because now remember, there are two elements to it. One is you've not yet done your dissertation, so even though you've done the literature review, you can go back and in your introduction and state that, but you've not done the data collection yet. You've not done the data analysis, interpretation, and all that yet. So in your introduction to the research proposal, by the way, I'm talking about two different things here. I'm talking about research proposal only. This, in any case, I hope everybody knows that we are only talking about research proposal, chapter 1, 2, 3. This is not your entire dissertation. Once you've done your entire dissertation, then you can talk about that this is what happened in the data collection and this is what happened. You can do all of that. You can pull that from chapter 4 and 5 also. But right now, you're introducing them only to this proposal. It is just the proposal for an application to a PhD, application to master's, MPhil, or just approaching your dissertation, chapter 1, 2, 3. So just remember that. So there's a reason why you do that. You first don't make the movie trailer without actually completing most of the movie. Once you've done most of the movie, then you can go back and do a really exciting, titillating, seductive trailer so people will want to see the movie. Okay. What is the trailer? Just to put it there, there's a reason. It's a very commercial thing. You're pulling the audience to want to see that picture. Correct? So just remember that. If you forget everything else, just remember that that's why you keep the introduction last. Do most of the literature review, do most of the research design methodology chapter, and then come in and talk about the introduction. Okay? So let's jump to a review of literature. This is a very critical piece of the puzzle, folks. Okay. If you look at this carefully, the precursor to conducting a robust lit review is identifying a clear problem statement. We also call it PS, and a research question. Okay, that's box number 1 here, right? Everybody here? Can everybody see that? Can everyone see this slide?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, and the second piece is, what is the focus of your research? Why are you investigating this research phenomena? This is, now you're trying to do a literature review, okay? Even before you jump into Emerald or ProQuest or whatever sources, think about this. what is your problem statement and what is your research question broadly. It can change down the road, but right now you have to think about that. What is the focus of your research? What are you focusing on? Are you focusing on the needs of unwed mothers who are raising children in a single parent family? What are you focused? What is it that you're focusing on? What are you investigating? A thing called a research phenomena. Unless you have a problem statement, research question, and research phenomena in your mind, you're going down the wrong rabbit hole. So please be careful. This is very well laid out. And if you follow these steps, you will do a robust literature review. Does literature exist on your area of study? The first thing, well, okay, so you have this research problem, you have research phenomena. Is there enough literature on this area? How do you find that out? Now you are going into the literature review and seeing what is available out there. Who has written about it? What are the theories that have been propagated about it? Who are the authors? What journal articles are writing about that? And a good way to do it is when you are looking for certain citation or certain references, you go back always to not only what is written in the journal article and what is cited in the journal article, but also go back to the references of the journal article. They will lead you into additional research areas that you had not originally thought about. Okay. If there is no direct source of preliminary literature on the research topic, can you identify other conversations happening in academic circles indirectly addressing your problem? So sometimes the research phenomena that you want to do it on, you cannot find readily literature available on that. So what do? You give up the exercise? No, you don't. You see other literature, maybe other sources that may be writing about this tangentially, not directly, but indirectly about it. Source that out. What are the conversations happening? A lot of times, as you're doing your PhD or as you're collecting this, you will be attending some conference, you'll be talking to some scholars, attending Zoom conferences such as this to open your mind out to what else is happening. What are the other conversations happening? Yes, Iman, go ahead.
Okay, sir, my query is like sometimes, like my personal experience basically, sometimes you have this research question that like there is a literally research gap and people have not conducted it. But when you take up this topic to your teacher or professor, because though they are from the same field, but they do not feel comfortable conducting it. So what they do is they just turn you point blank. Okay, no, because the supporting literature is not sufficient. You have not, though we know because it's a gap and there's not much there, but yet we think you should work a little bit more or maybe wait for somebody else to do more literature, then you can come back with it. So how do you tackle this? I mean, you know, if you already brought something and that needs to be researched and yet, for example, I'll give you an example, maybe that will clear it. Like if we talk about decision-making processes in our daily life, and we are talking about job interviews. Okay, every company and organization has this set values or let's say degree or experience that we require. Let's say we got two people with the similar qualifications, both have the same requirements that were set by the company in the job description. Okay. Now, how they're going to select the perfect candidate or call for the interview? They are going to go through his personal statement. So whoever has wrote a personal statement, they're going to think, okay, now what is your personal statement? For me, personal statement is expressing who you are and how good you want to be with the specific job, like how good you are at the job, or maybe what you are bringing to the table for the people.
Right.
So if let's say they both have the same comparison, how do they select it? How do they make the decision? Okay, we're not going to call this person for interview, but we're going to call this person for interview. Sometimes what happens is that you already have a biased kind of experience with certain ethnic groups or you can say certain names or something like that. People who are not emotionally strong actually give into that. And then they ended up calling other candidates. So there is no research on it, how the decision making should be verified or qualified.
So you're talking about recruiting bias, correct?
Recruiting bias, okay. But
yeah, and there's a lot of that, they look at your name and they immediately make a judgment.
Yeah, but there are people here which says that if it's a Muslim name, let's assume, just don't call the person.
Oh, I know. Hey, it's happening all over, and especially now in the US, where we have a president here who is very racist, okay, and who's very divisive, and his rhetoric is always how I can divide people, okay, how can divide.
No, I understand, but that's like we go into racism. What I'm talking about is not racism. I'm talking about,
I understand. I understand. I was finishing up my thought. What I was trying to say was that this bias is very strong. It exists out there. And it's unfortunate that it exists. Mahmood, did you want to say something?
Yeah, later on, not now.
Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that they're both names, like both are same, everything is same. Sometimes the way the person is expressing themselves is like the person selects, okay, I will go for this person's statement and this guy. So they don't have any criteria there to judge a personal statement. Around the world, there is no criteria to judge a personal statement. That is happening when, even if you are getting a PhD recruits, even you are getting into an organization or any sort of job. When it comes to you competing with the personal statements, it's more like how that person connects you to himself or herself at that point. And people who are emotionally strong, only they can keep this thing separate from their own emotions, and they judge it objectively. So there was no research conducted on it. When I put down the proposal to my professor, he said, since there is no research conducted on it and you presented very little literature, we cannot go with the project. So if you have been turned, and the question was of that module was, find a research gap in decision-making process, which can further facilitate people making decisions in organizations. And which has a huge impact on organizations. So that person who is selecting might be being biased because of his own personal experiences, which could actually cause an organization a lot of good people.
Okay, so Iman, just can we take this offline between you and me and make it a private discussion because I want to just finish up this here. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, but that's a very important question that you raised. And so this, just remember, as you're jumping into a literature review, is such an important exercise for you. You have to have this clear direction in your mind of how you're going to approach this. Okay, I cannot do the literature review work for you. Okay, I cannot get into your head. I cannot make you want to do this. This is something that we bring in all our own objectivity, subjectivity, everything into a literature review process. And all of that really helps.
I have one query.
Yes.
Since our research is all about an observation and then speculating about that observation and then coming to the literature review. But at times I've heard that literature review, we just have to, fix our entire literature review to peer-reviewed journals and conference proceeding. Books, articles, these all, they come in as a secondary thing. Literature review.
Yes.
So where do we put, like, for example, if we have observed the phenomena, we have speculated about it, and the literature review, current literature review is in the form of articles. So where do we put that? And how do we present that?
Wonderful question. So in literature review, you will have both sources. You will have primary sources and secondary sources. Primary sources are those where empirical research, interviews have been done, conducted by the author, and the author is writing about it. Okay, right? That is primary research, correct? You're directly reading what the author did, directly reading their findings, directly reading their study. On the other hand, sometimes a lot of people are also creating secondary resources, means they are reading the work of others and making sense of it. That is secondary. But the moment you start reading secondary resources, okay, you will find that you will not be able to get really deep into your research phenomena, because it's an interpretation of someone. Is the interpretation of someone the same as the interpretation of the person who actually did the study? No, there may be a different school of thought, and then some people might say an interpretation is really good, very scholarly done. But if I were you, I would lean more toward primary sources rather than secondary sources. Okay? Because primary sources will lead you into, because that go to the primary sources, going to the journal article where the mini study has been done, the authors, 3 authors are listed, they did this, they did that, look at their references, look at the citations. That will lead you into other primary resources too. So that is how the whole thing broadens, and you have a bigger picture that you're talking about. Okay. So let me move on just here. Okay. Framing research questions. Okay. Very important aspect of this. And I want to be mindful about the time also, because we have a lot to cover, and I don't want to, one part of me doesn't want to rush into this, because it is such an important part to be covered. Literature review is perhaps one of the most important things you will do. But let's take a look at this slide. Framing research questions. So a research question is different from a research phenomena. It is different from a research problem. Okay? It's different from a research topic. Research topic is what? Your topic of your title, topic of your research proposal. Okay? A phenomenological study of this and that, or a gerontological study of this and that, or whatever, that's your topic. Your topic is not your research phenomena. Okay? So a research topic is different from a problem statement, which is different from a research question. Think of it as these 3 different elements running on. So problem statement, what is your problem statement? You have a problem statement such and such, that I find this, that I would like to investigate this area because there's not enough research done, or whatever the case may be. And based on this, my research question that I'm working with is this. And usually research questions are short. They're not 3 pages long. They're definitely not 3 or 4 or 5 lines. Okay, they're short. Okay, so a well-defined research question narrows down the purpose of your study and ensures that your research found in literature is deep and specific, not just wide and generic. So your research of the literature should be deep. You have to be able to go deep into the research and not go wide. Breadth is important, because to cover more sources, you need breadth. But to really go deep down, you're excavating. You're going deep down into the literature to see what connections you are making to your research phenomena. A good research question is both interesting and researchable. So you cannot have a research question that cannot be researched. Okay? Obviously, you understand. If you cannot research the thing, what's the point of having a research question? It should be clear and concise. Okay? It should be ethical. You don't want to get into unethical research, right? And on the position of ethics, I also want to share that I sometimes find universities and students that I've worked with in India that are not following the ethics considerations the way they should be, because there is no guiding. I don't blame them. The university doesn't have a guiding ethics committee, all right, that will approve your research proposal to go ahead and start collecting data. In the US, we call it the IRB, Institutional Review Board. I have to make an application to the IRB. Then I have to do a self-exam, which goes for about 3 or 4 hours. I have to pass that exam before my application is accepted. Then once it is accepted, I'll get a notification, then it is approved. Because you're dealing with human research and dealing with research subjects. So the idea is that you don't psychologically damage somebody in your research. Okay. So you have to, your research has to be ethical. You get the guidelines. If you don't have such a regulatory body, now most universities also in India are starting to get that. I know the IIMs have their own research committees. I know JP has, right? Rashmi, you have your own ethics people there, right? I don't know what about the other universities, but everybody is trying to gear up for that. It's not just you can just make a proposal and start collecting data. Okay, no, you cannot. And I'm sure that Nitin, if Nitin's still here, Nitin, that you will also in your research also have to get some medical clearances and all, right?
Yes, but then not for this,
okay.
Because this involves a qualitative survey where it doesn't involve subject's personal information. It's just a phenomena of a certain device, and that's
okay.
I'm trying to explore.
Okay, so it's just a survey, there's a questionnaire.
Right.
Questionnaires don't require the informed consent form, but all other data that you collect with you one-on-one interviewing people, you need informed consent forms. Okay.
Yes. So I will take informed consent. I will have to.
Oh, you have to definitely, because
I do not want
to also require consent.
Yeah.
Yes, required consent. Very, very good. Thank you for bringing that up. Because definitely you have to, cover your own base, because you don't want somebody to come back and say, I felt damaged by this.
True.
Especially because you're dealing with very sensitive issues. It allows data to be collected and analyzed. So your research question is something that will guide you to the research methodology, research design. It allows you to collect data and to be able to analyze data. All right. Now, review of literature. It represents the major published works that inform your problem statement and research question. Like good research questions, a robust literature review often guides your choice. I'm basically talking about the same thing. A thorough lit review is a precursor to establishing generativity. I talked about generativity, the ability of your study to contribute to the field and to add to the body of knowledge. We call it, if this generativity is missing in your research endeavor, you're doing something wrong, because you're not just doing this research for yourself, you're researching also for the community down there. It serves several purposes. It supports your study, right? Most importantly, supports future researchers, those who will be looking, Nitin, that you will be doing something. Other doctors may be looking at what you did, right? They feel encouraged, they feel inspired by your study. They want to do more on your study. And see, once you've done a thorough literature review, it builds your subject matter expertise. Because you become, guess what? As part of becoming a scholar is to gain subject matter expertise. You have to have expertise. You have to be, folks, better than your academic advisor, better than your faculty readers, better than the student reader. When I say better, I mean more equipped in your area of study than them. If they are more equipped in your area of study than you've done something wrong.
Right.
Because guess what? They're going to ask you questions when you defend your thesis someday down the road. You'll need to defend your arguments. You'll need to defend what you did, correct? How did you do it this way? Why not this way? So just remember that review of literature is a very thorough document that needs a lot of work. And if your introductory chapter is about, say, 10 or 12 pages, or say 15 pages, your literature review might run into 35 to 40 pages. It's that long. And not that you're filling pages. The idea is not that you're going out there and filling pages. The idea is that you are doing an exhaustive research. Okay? That you're spending the time, effort, and energy into delving deeply, not just broad, but also deep into the literature, so that you can get most of what you're looking for. And you will never actually be able to get everything, but if you've done your job and done it diligently, you'll be in a good shape. Now, review of literature. I'll quickly go through these three if you have a few minutes more. A literature review is not a paper on a topic. It is a paper on the research about a topic. A lot of people think it's a literature review is a paper. You're writing a paper. Yes, yes, you're writing that paper, but what are you writing this paper about? It is a paper on the research about the topic. Okay, so follow that point. It identifies key theories and theorists, ideas for new research, and theoretical framework for your study. So there's a theoretical framework for your study. Who are the authors? What are the new theories they're talking about? It requires a significant amount of selective reading. A lot of times students make the mistake of just reading, but they're not doing selective reading, specialized reading. Otherwise you'd go crazy. You'll be reading so much on your area of study that you don't know, should I select this, select that? So be very selective in your, and that's why the next piece is critical to identify types of journals that you want to read. So if I'm doing social science research, would I do well to go into a quantitative journal? Probably not. I'll look for social science journals. Within that, I might look for journals in phenomenology if I'm a phenomenologist and my study area is phenomenology. So things of that nature. Identifies appropriate research strategies best suited for your phenomena. How do you know what strategy is best suited for your phenomena unless you've done a thorough review of the literature? Because others will tell you, if 10 authors are citing that on your phenomena and they've done the study in a certain way, it is very likely that they have seen something there that is working, that produces some good results, outcomes. So you may want to follow that. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to follow that, but you're encouraged to follow the lead of other authors. It's always a good practice to do that. Review of literature, different methods call for different approaches. Quantitative studies are deductive. You all understand deductive and inductive. Deductive means really from abroad, you're making generalizations, okay? Inductive means from specific cases, you're going broad. You're making not generalized statements, but you're making some general observations. So look at either the funnel goes like this or funnel goes like that. One is a straight funnel, one is an inverted funnel, right? From specific down to general, or general to very specific applications, right? Qualitative studies are inductive, allows for literature to evolve from collected data. Quantitative studies need a lot more literature review, okay? Because you're going to be testing a hypothesis, you're going to be testing some theory. Whereas qualitative studies, you can do with less because a lot of the new theories you want to emerge from the data, from the interviews, from the recordings. Identify keywords, develop an outcome and then annotate, then identify common themes that cut across various strands of what you've read. Again, as you do the reading, you'll see how the dots starting to connect. Annotation you make, so you'll have to make very careful notes, highlighting. So you don't have to read the entire book. You have to highlight portions of the book that are most relevant to your field. Extensively read other reviews that are done by researchers. This is where the secondary sources come in. Reviews of work that have been done by other authors on other people's work. That's also a good way to interpret and make some sense of what is going on in that area. Key features: is the review easy to understand? Okay. Is there a logical connection between the problem statement, research question, hypothesis, and the literature review? I think this is something that Rashmi had raised. Is there a logical connection? Are the dots connecting? Or is it just all disparate, all over the place? Your dots have to connect between all chapters. There has to be a continuation. Do you feel like a SME after reading the review? If you're reading someone's review and it's done so well, you almost feel as though you have some expertise in that area. Okay? Are you comfortable developing a research method based on the review of literature? So once you've done the review of literature, then you can arrive and you have a research question. Then you can say, okay, what research method might be best suited for my research problem or for my research question? Okay? Do not use Google. Okay? A lot of people fall for this trap. They go to Google, they go to Wikipedia, they go to other non-academic sources. Hey, let me just do a go. We are so used to Google has totally brainwashed us. If you must use Google, I would highly encourage you not to use the straight Google as you go into Google. Go into Google Scholar. Put in Google Scholar, then that Google Scholar comes up, and that is academic, well cited. Sometimes you have a PDF of something, sometimes you do not have PDF, but at least you can get the sources. Then you can go to your university library, through the librarian, you can also access those papers. Beware of using literature that is not evidence-based. So again, if you do a Google, it is somebody's opinion. Somebody's opinion is not academic. Has then been researched. Is that strong evidence? Do they have a hypothesis? Is the hypothesis supported? So you need literature that is robust, that is academic in nature. Rely on authors that are most frequently quoted in reliable journals. You will find that some authors are quoted again and again and again. Why is that so? Because those authors are robust authors. They have done quality work. So look at the work of those authors. Take a cue, take an example of those authors. Know how to distinguish between primary and secondary. Okay, and I spoke about that earlier. Preference should be given to primary resources. Okay, and that is, my friends, the end of this presentation. Okay, and what I've tried to do is provide you here with a brief overview, but through our conversations, I'm hoping that we have provided you with some pitfalls that you can avoid, some of the challenges. Because unless you wrap your mind around what is a research proposal, what are the goals of a research proposal, what is a review of literature, how do we go about this, you are not going to be able to feel comfortable attempting to do the research. Okay. So in this session, I've provided you with some ideas, some basics of how to go about this. Again, I will be providing, after the Zoom conferences, I'll be providing you with excellent materials to follow up on the reading. And I'm personally available to anybody. Please do not hesitate. If you hesitate, it's your loss. If you contact me, I will be able to help you out. We can work through an arrangement together on how we can help. Okay, you get your work done, and I'll be more than delighted. That is my passion. That is what I do all day, to help others achieve their goals. But tomorrow, what we will do is we will be covering chapter 3, which is research design, methodology, and methods. And then we'll be doing the implication chapter. And then we will go back and bring it back into the chapter 1, introduction. And then you will see how your chapter 1 starts to make a lot more sense. Now, if some of you want to see my own dissertation of how I approached it phenomenologically, especially if you're doing qualitative research in phenomenology, I'll be very happy to share my dissertation. It's in the form of a book on Amazon, but I will save you the hassle. In the pandemic, I don't want you to go buy my book. I will just send you my dissertation. All right. How does that sound? At least something you'll be able to save.
Yes.
The book in India is about, I think about 800 or 900 rupees. So I'll save you that. I'll just send you my dissertation. And if you can, you just go into it and read it, other things.
Right.
But I want to thank you. This has been a very, very exciting, very interactive session. And I've loved your thoughts and feedback very much. You know, it's really interesting to see how much comes out of this when we work together. So in the last couple of minutes, I want to just open the floor to you. If anybody wants to add something, say something, take something away. Go ahead.
Yeah, Anil.
Yes. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So my
Who
only
is this?
I'm Nitin. Anil.
Nitin. Yes, Nitin. Go ahead.
Yeah. The only request is, will the recording be available today? Because
absolutely everything that I do, I record. Believe me.
Yeah, because tomorrow when I come, I want to go through it again. And
absolutely, absolutely, yes. And now just so you know, and thank you for bringing that up. We will be. I usually share my recordings for the because what is knowledge if it cannot be shared with the world?
Right.
Correct. So hopefully none of you have any objections to sharing this in my YouTube channel. I have a research channel on YouTube, which some of you are familiar with, but if not, there's a plethora of resources, my presentations, lectures, Zoom conferences such as this there. So every time I do this, it adds to the body of knowledge. It's all free for everybody, but that's how you make the world a better place. Right? The junior, and Nitin, the junior group, I did not want to do that because in the junior study group, which I'm running with some undergrad, mostly undergrad students, they're a little bashful about their work being shared, and you know what I'm saying. So yeah. I don't do that. But this is being recorded, and I will create the file, and I will share the link with you guys.
No, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Anybody want to say anything else?
Yes, I have.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Rashmi.
Since we talk so much about the process of doing the literature review, I also want to understand the process of writing the literature review. Do we mention each and every stage how we got into that literature review? Is it chronological, or have we got some kind of theme, or we have derived some kind of theme? Was it backward referencing? Do we mention all these things in our research proposal and our dissertations?
Yeah, okay. So you're asking whether how to actually write the literature review. Once you've done the literature review, how do you put it on paper? What do you put on paper? Do you put everything that you read? Do you put even things that are not remotely connected with your phenomenon?
Not everything. When we have condensed everything, when we have got the condensed form that we have got right now with us.
Yes.
Now, how do we present that condensed form?
But it is a very important question you've asked, because how do you then present it in the research proposal? Okay. Because does it have to be pages after pages you're filling crazily? No. It has to be very concise. And your literature has to inform your study phenomena, indirectly or directly. And not only just say, oh, Tom Sawyer said this, Sita Raman said this, and Janakram said this. That is not how you do literature review. It's an analytical exercise. You have to analyze what somebody is saying, make sense of what somebody is saying, number one, and two, how does it connect with your research phenomena? What is it that Rashmi is saying that illuminates, informs my research phenomena? Number one. And number two, how does it connect with the other sources that you're talking about in your literature review? That is the critical piece. And that is where you bring in a lot of citations, references, because that is the one place you're citing the literature of others, correct? So you bring in, you make sense of what somebody is saying, and then you use citation. So what I will do is, in order to explain that better, I will send you all my dissertation, okay? Just go to the literature review, and I did a dissertation on a very novel phenomenon. It's an aesthetic from poetry. It's called Negative Capability by John Keats. So you will find it very abstract, but you will see how I made those connections. Because my novel phenomena, negative capability, there was nothing available in the literature. When I started to do my study, only a few pieces, only some journal articles were written on poetry. But was I doing poetry? No, I was doing leadership, right? So how do I then make the connections between poetry and leadership in my research? So I will send you my dissertation, read that, okay, read portions of that, and just try to see how I have made connections. I'm not saying that mine is the gospel truth, that this is how to do it, but this is just one way of approaching, correct? Anybody else have any questions?
So I had one. Like it's related to the same thing as Rashmi asked. Like for us, I am a bit confused now that if we are talking about the gist and condensed form of what we have read to explain our phenomena, then what are we doing in introduction and what are we doing in literature review? It's kind of getting mixed up. Like if in introduction we are talking about the variable and how others have researched it, and then again in literature review we are talking about kind of how they have researched it. So I'm just confused here.
Okay. So in the introduction, you are not saying how others have researched it. No. Introduction is if you're introducing somebody to your research topic, research phenomena. What is it that you want to tell them? How would you get me excited to know more about your research? That is the introduction. An introduction is not something that is loaded with a lot of citations and introduction has to come in your words.
Okay.
And when you're doing a phenomenological study or a qualitative study, introductions sometimes come in the first person, not in the third person. Research of literature comes in third person. Other areas of your study will come in the third person, but you want to bring an active voice. I want to know what is it that you, Iman Fatima, is researching, and why is she so excited about this topic? Help me understand. Help me get me excited, yeah. Come on, about your topic.
Okay.
Just saying that if a man says, oh, I'm really excited about understanding how children process this, blah, 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 blah. Does that do anything for me? No. Okay, so you are excited, but I'm not that excited. How would you intrigue me to want to read more? Iman, that is something that is a process of thinking that goes into it. How do you make it compelling for others to read?
Normally, what we used to do was we used to quote that people who have conducted this, they kind of find out this. So that's where the confusion
This is
comes.
this is the one area where people make the biggest mistake. They confuse the literature review section with the introduction. I'm reading an introduction. The introduction is running into 30 pages. And then I'm wondering, what is going on? Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah. What happened was my AirPods ran out of battery. So I'm back on my computer. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, so you get the feel for that. So you have to really help people understand, get them intrigued about your study phenomenon. Okay?
Okay.
Right? Anybody else?
I think I'll go through your dissertation to have a more clear.
Yes. No, and you and I are working together on other areas also. So we'll have a lot more to discuss about this. We can do it back channel. But I wanted to give the chance to anybody else wants to say anything.
Okay, Dr. Bahel, can I try to maybe explain as a peer-to-peer to Miss Fatima? I'm not the difference between an introduction and a literature review.
Oh, so this will come tomorrow. Can we talk about that?
Okay, all right. I'll talk about it tomorrow.
Because I want to be respectful and mindful about everybody's time. Because it's late for people in India. It's not late for you and I, but it's late for others in India and all that. So we will take it off channel, but we'll discuss that definitely. Okay.
No problem. Well, I have a request. If we can take, I have a request. If we can take another Zoom meeting and discuss on crafting a good paper, because right now I'm a bit confused about introduction chapter in our proposal and the introduction in our research paper. So probably many of us must be thinking on the same line. If we can have something on how to introduce our topic in our research paper.
No issue at all. We can dedicate a whole session. We'll create a new session. Not tomorrow, because tomorrow we've already had this whole structure already done. But not tomorrow, but one of the other days we can and whoever would like to attend, I'd be very happy to, how to actually write that. So what I will do is I will take pieces of writing, okay, and present pieces of writing in extracts, and then we will talk about each piece and say how these pieces are. I could have done it. I could take pieces from my own writing also, my own, and take it from other people's writings also, to say how a good dissertation proposal, especially you're talking about literature review, right? That's where your problem area is, right? Right? Because literature review is the one area which people get into a lot of really chaos. They don't know where to go with this.
Right? I am actually aiming at it is finding after funneling down all the information that I have right now with me and the condensed information that I have, I've found a theme. I have found themes, and I'm using a software.
Yes.
To put in those themes in those notes, and with that I am doing a systematic literature review. So I want to understand how to write that exactly. I know the process now, but I don't know how to
okay. And so one other thing may I suggest one thing, Rashmi, because this seems to be your specific situation. It may not apply very well to all the other participants, because there are different phases, different stages. You are at your stage when you are wrapping up your dissertation, right? Others are just very into the early stages.
I understand.
You and I can do that part if you don't mind. I can help you work with you on a separate Zoom conference, and we can discuss that. And then we can record that if you want, and then we can put it and share it with others. That way, I think it'll be a better utilization of time.
Yeah.
Just to be mindful about it. Anybody else before we wrap it up?
Thank you, Dr. Anil. So it was very lucid, and we were able to understand what you were saying in a very comprehensive manner. So thank you for the time today. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, we'll talk tomorrow more, going to chapter 3, which is also a very, very important critical chapter, the how to do it, right? The how to go about this. What are you going to do? What design? What are the methods you're going to use? So we will talk about that tomorrow. And again, this is to just get your feet wet into this, but like Rashmi had the situation, or Nitin may have an individual type of situation where you need help, we can work together and come to some sort of a understanding on how to go about that, right?
Thank you, Arun. Thank you.
That'll help you more, because otherwise what might be interesting for one person may not be interesting for all the others, right?
Correct.
So we want to be mindful of that. All right, with that, I want to thank you all again. It's been very, very interesting, very enlightening, very edifying for me to be able to interact with you all. And we'll keep this process going, okay? We'll see you tomorrow then again. You. All right, bye. Take care.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.